the radio world in the news. Paul Millsap breakdown continues. Jazz free agency. My new favorite player, Durant, steps up, and Kobe, the pretentious, never fail one, fails. Plus a little executive of the year. It's all coming up on today's edition of Tip Off. Boom, 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 boom. The NBA playoffs. It's incredible. Mario Chalmers. Boom, 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 boom. Steve Blake. Boom, 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 boom. Dante Jones. Boom, 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 boom. I don't know the lesson of all this, but weird names finishing games. Boom, 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 boom. How are you? Welcome to Tip Off. Isn't that weird? Chalmers one night, Blake the other. Dante Jones really didn't do anything. I was just trying to think of the next totally random name to finish a game. Lavoy Allen. Just means that every little spot on your roster matters. By the way, Steve Blake, 23 of 60 this year on corner threes. Not bad. 38% wide open three. And a guy who's got pedigree, background, generally a pretty big game player. I don't have. He's open, man. You can get an open look late in the game. I think you got to take it. And I think as Jazz fans, we all kind of know that side of the story from the days of LeBron, actually Michael, giving it up. Open look late in the game. You got to push off or you got to give it up. At least that's my thought. And Steve Blake's got background. Blake this year, by the way, in the clutch was 5 of 11. With the game on the line, when you play with Kobe, you don't get a lot of shots. However, Steve Blake in his career had made 3 of his last 5 late game shots since 2007 with a game on the line. And all of them were threes. So hard to quibble, but yet incredible finish to that game last night. How about that game? If you watched Laker Thunder last night, Lakers had it. They were up 7, and then they pissed it away. And Kobe was in the middle of doing a lot of that. Durant switched over to him. His length caused some problems, forced 2 turnovers. Durant made an incredible play late. What jumped out to me about that game is what I saw in that game was the Lakers brought it to another level. They amped it up, whatever cliche you want to use. But they made the game really, really hard. And it became, and the Thunder have put in enough playoffs to understand how to deal with it. But the Lakers had a better understanding that when the game got tough, the Lakers still kind of fought through each of their possessions offensively and got what they needed to get. Whereas allergies, excuse me, I have not started taking my allergy medicine before the tip-off, but I might want to start. Sorry about that. But the Thunder, I thought, started to bail out of possessions. And that's where their offense went awry in that game. And from there, I don't know how the Thunder ended up winning the game. I mean, I guess the only thought I would have is that the Lakers just aren't powerful enough to be able to get far enough ahead. But I thought they needed 2 field goals and they won the game. I was watching with my dad, who was in town, because my daughter had a theater production. If any of your kids have done Up with Kids, my daughter did Up with Kids, was little Rapunzel in the play last night. And so everyone came into town for that, and it was really cool. Tip of the hat to her. Pretty awesome to watch her at 7 sit up there on the big stage and sing a song and do all that stuff. So it was really cool. And tip of the hat, by the way, if I'm tipping the hat, tip of the hat to my wife, who while I was in the middle of the season, somehow on Wednesdays was able to get my son to skiing and my daughter to theater, and had them all at everything every time. It was just amazing work. So that's not what tip-off was about, but if we're going to talk about it, and this is just my random stream of conscious every morning, so I thought it was worth, just give it a shot. Kobe, by the way, last night, he goes 0 of 6 from 3, 2 of 6 at the rim. Lakers got to the rim 26 times. The Thunder only got to the rim 22 times. That's what I'm talking about. I thought they really started to settle. They took 17 threes and 18 shots between 16 and 23 feet. I thought they had really pulled back. And Westbrook couldn't hit last night. I mean, Westbrook, they're not beatable. When Westbrook's pulling up and hitting that 15 to 17 footer, they're not beatable. Same thing with Tony and the Spurs. Last night, Westbrook didn't hit that shot, so then that opened up a chance by which to possibly get them. But Westbrook ends up with 5 shots at the rim last night and 7 shots outside. I thought that's the Lakers forced him out there. He missed some shots, and I thought the Lakers just made it really tough. And somehow Oklahoma City stayed in that game. Very impressive. There's a bunch of news out there about the radio station world, suddenly radio part of the world. And I got the press release yesterday as well that the Larry H. Miller Communications Corp has purchased or letter of intent to purchase 1280, 97.5, and I guess also 96, 960 Covo AM in Utah County. I would hope for you guys, I mean, you're going to have to tell me. I haven't driven the perimeter. The hope is that this increases the Jazz radio signal. It probably eliminates Jazz games from B98.7. It does, which I think a lot of people listen to. But it's really, the belief is, and I haven't talked to anybody in management about this, but I think, just reading what Chris had to say, Chris Baum, who's Senior Vice President Broadcasting, that really the idea is, one, better platform, and then 2, better distribution of Jazz games, Bs, and other properties. Hopefully for you, where you live, that is accurate. I mean, radio signals are so funky when you're dealing with mountains and everything like that. It adds an FM signal to the Jazz games. Me personally, I don't suspect it impacts me in any way. I'm kind of doing this, and I'm doing the play-by-play, and that I go where they go. So I will call the Jazz games wherever they would like to put them. And this move, I believe everything that I've heard and from what the quotes I've read, the intention is to give you a better platform, a better vehicle to catch games and sports talk radio. The only other quotes I read was a Scott Pierce piece, which talked about trying to put together the best of all available talent. And that's something the Jazz have always done. They've always put together the best of available talent, I guess, other than a little span in there where they didn't do that. It didn't work out so well, so hopefully that will continue. I guess I don't know a lot. By the way, there's a podcast up there I did on Yahoo Sports Radio, kind of old friend Travis Rogers from way back is hosting a show there now, and so he and I'm kind of hooking up with him and having fun, so just thought I'd throw that up there. I'll try to get some podcasts, try to catch up with Maddie Harpering or somebody of that nature this week. If you have somebody you really want to hear, let me know, maybe next week. I've started the Paul Millsap breakdown. There's part 3's coming out around 10 this morning. It's very interesting. Paul ranked out very, very well. I was a bit, I have probably been the leader on the Paul is an elite level third big. The numbers say he is that. The numbers say that he's better than that. He would be the best third big out there, but that's because he's probably a top 15 starting power forward. He comes out, and you can read it at Locked on Jazz, but he comes out at the 3rd-ranked power forward in the Locke offensive rankings, 10th in points per possession, 14th in power forwards in defensive rebounding, 19th in power forwards in offensive rebounding, 20th in blocks, number 1 in steals, and he's 5th overall in the league in steals, and he's the number 1 plus-minus player for the Jazz. It's pretty solid. It's not elite. He's not an elite guy. He's not a 6'11 power forward like Pau Gasol or someone like that, but he's proven that he can be a starting power forward on a playoff team, and I think has proven he can be a starting power forward on a really good team if the other pieces are around him and you've got an elite piece or two. Boy, he's probably good enough to be your third weapon, and I think he proved. analyzing the numbers has been interesting to me. It jumped out at me. He had a better year as I'm doing this research than I think I probably realized. Uh, he just finds ways. He's not a great post up player. We'll do the synergy sports. Today is by circumstances, and then I've got to get some more done. But the synergy sports one, shooting on the floor and synergy sports the next two, and that'll probably tell us a little bit. Uh, and there might be an argument, or there is an argument. Now I don't know whether it's the right argument that as this game goes to speed, that maybe you're better off with playing Favors and Millsap, some Hayward, Burks eventually, and whatever the pieces you have, and until Cantor's ready, and that you're just a very athletic team. You spread the floor a little bit more. You do a little less posting up, and you play the game a bit differently than you have been. You're probably very quick defensively. Favors shot blocking probably covers for it. There's a legitimate argument that the idea of Jefferson and Millsap, excuse me, that Favors and Millsap might be your answer. Now I don't know where that leaves Al, and frankly, a lot of statistical analysis of Al shows that he would be a fabulous scorer off the bench, who once he gets off the primary bigs can really dominate games. And then you decide as the game goes on how you're going to close, and some of the time maybe you play that big lineup and then let Cantor continue to develop. So the project I'm working on right now, where I just do these very in-depth season reviews, has been, takes the emotion out of it. It's been very telling to me of how these things look. I got asked a good question I'm going to try to answer one or two questions every night. Sulia allows me for a nice format in that regard to kind of answer an extended question without having to put out a whole blog post on Twitter. And I think it links over to Facebook as well. Helps our podcast a little bit in a way. I don't know if I've described that or not, but there's some things it does for us. They chart and rank you, and so it's a message to the rest of the NBA that my audience actually follows and listens. And if they do a podcast with me, they'll get heard, so it's good. But anyway, one of the questions I got asked is, will the Jazz be aggressive in free agency? I think Kevin O'Connor has proven that he's very aggressive, and there's no question he's been more aggressive since Jerry stepped down and Ty took over. So I would say that, the short model we have here is that, yes, he will be very aggressive. There's a uniqueness to the Jazz situation, and what that uniqueness is the fact that starting in 2013, 2014, so a year from now, when the new tax parameters and new CBA become much stricter, and teams are really going to probably have to shed some contracts and do some things, the Jazz have only 4 players under contract: Favors, Cantor, Hayward, and Burks. And they will have a team option and a qualifying offer on each of them for the next year also. So any player you add to this roster, you better make sure they're most definitely a future piece, fit incredibly well, and that you're willing to add their salary to the books. A player that I mentioned is Ilyasova from Milwaukee, who, when I did my Paul Millsap research, just popped off the charts as having an amazing year. And you wonder what you might be able to do to get him. Somebody suggested, I thought it was interesting, Ilyasova and Bino Udrich for Al Jefferson or a Watson Al Jefferson. You'd really probably rather do Al Jefferson, Devin Harris, bringing Devin Harris back to Milwaukee and take less money, but you probably have to do it the other way. Udrich and Harris, you suddenly have $16 million of slightly above average point guard play, which maybe is all right. Udrich is a very good defensive player. On all defensive metrics, he comes out quite impressively in what he does defensively, which makes him interesting and probably worth a look to some extent. But that's an interesting. I don't think there's anything realistic to that. I'd have to understand. You'd have to understand what Milwaukee is doing with the team. Udrich had a pretty poor offensive year last year, so they would probably love to get rid of his $7 million player option, which I'm sure he'll pick up for next year. But they Uh, and so they'd have to decide they want Al as a low post scorer to go with Brandon Jennings and Monte Ellis, and that might give them something. There might actually be something to that equation. They play this fast game, and then when they get to the half court, they have Al, and they've already signed Drew Gooden for 4 more years as a big. They have Luke Mbamute. Maybe they decide that that's where to go if they can't get Ilyasova to re-sign. But I think there's a lot of pieces in that don't hold together. All right, Executive of the Year, congratulations to Larry Brown. I thought Kevin deserves some credit. He's in the top 5. You know what? If we have a huge year next year, that's when he gets the credit. All right, talk to you guys soon. Hope all is well. Enjoy your day. And I don't know, enjoy your day. Just hang out, enjoy your day. Probably go to work, do that stuff. Yeah, I got you. Bye.